What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here. We are just under a month into the NFL season, and we know what that means. It is expectations have met reality, and everybody is going to zero. That is right. A little NFL market update today. Wanted to wait, get a couple weeks in the books. A lot of players that had a lot of national hype have gone deep into the red. We will talk about some guys going up as well, but we're going to focus on the red first, and then we'll look at the green in the back half of the video. I don't know how many times I got to say it. When expectations meet reality, these cards go down. Expectations are so high and so lofty, it is near impossible for any of these players to maintain their value once the season starts, even if they play really, really well. Now, guys that people weren't super hyped on, flying under the radar a little bit, or drastically beat expectations, see nice market improvement. And also lower value guys. That's the real trick here. And we've talked about this before. A $2,500 Joe Burrow card, it would take astronomical forces for that card to double in value. A $50 Micah Parsons card or $100 Micah Parsons card or whatever, that has a much easier path to going up. It's a lower price point. It is a more collector-focused card and a lower population card because just not as many people grade stuff like that. Just to use him as a one-off example. And it's not necessarily have to be in all those qualities. We'll talk more about that when we get to the cards going up. So let's just look at the list of names we have up here on the screen. Joe Burrow, to no fault of his own, he got hurt. He got hurt in training camp early on, and it has essentially spiraled his season out of control to start. Now, they did win this week. They did not look great doing it. At least Burrow didn't. Jamar came out of it a little bit. The defense looked good. Mixon looked fine, but they were playing the Rams, and it was not a very pleasing game to watch on Monday Night Football. Now, could he get healthy and turn it around the back half of the season? Absolutely. I believe they have a pretty soft schedule coming up the next couple weeks, and then they go on bye. But if that calf gets tweaked again, that is trouble. If he can somehow maintain and bounce back a little bit, the problem is I think it's going to be a lot of games like what we saw the other night, where maybe the Bengals eke out a victory, but it's not him throwing for 400 yards and 4 touchdown passes for them to do it. It's, maybe 250 yards, a touchdown, and interception, just more of like that game manager mode because he is hampered by that calf injury still. Regardless, his card, I posted about this the other day, just the other day ended for 1.9K silver PSA 10 Prism. That is the lowest that card is sold for in 6 months. And for the purposes of charts and graphs on our good old friends over at Market Movers, link in the description down below, we're going back 60 days. 60 days puts us right at the National, the prime time. I'm going to pump every NFL quarterback to the moon of the year. So we're going back 60 days through today. So Burrow down a cool 28%, lowest his prices have been in at least 6 months. Next up, Mr. Offseason Justin Fields. They got him DJ Moore. This is going to be the year. He's really going to evolve as a passer. Down 41%. It was $600 at the National for a silver PSA 10 Prism. Now down to $350. And that team is an utter disaster, and they play quite possibly one of the worst football games of all time, with the Bears playing the Broncos this weekend. That just looks and sounds like a dumpster fire. So Justin Fields not off to a hot start, and his card prices are tanking justifiably so. Jamar Chase, rinse and repeat what we just talked about with Joe Burrow. Due to Joe Burrow's calf injury and him playing like meh, it has drastically affected Chase's numbers, and his card prices have fallen as well, though not quite as much here, just a 12% drop, down $25. He did look pretty decent on Monday night, but that was the first real decent game he has had. I know a lot of fantasy players are very frustrated with him. Creeping down but not crashing, one Mr. Justin Herbert. The Chargers are up to their Chargery-like nature already this season. His silver PSA 10 Prism has dropped just slightly, $150, down 10%. Not a huge drop off there. The main reason I put him on the list is because it is worth monitoring him. The Chargers are 100% charging, as we mentioned, and he has a lot baked into him. He has a lot of expectations that he needs to hold up. They just lost Mike Williams. Austin Eckler's out with what sounds like a high ankle sprain, though no one wants to say those words. We'll see what happens. I'm at a yellow alert. Keep your eyes on with one Justin Herbert. Trevor Lawrence, the Jaguars, also a little bit of an enigma. A hot fantasy team. Everyone wanted Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk and Trevor Lawrence, and Travis Etienne, and they've just kind of been all over the place. They've played fine-ish. Wide receivers are dropping balls left and right. Trevor Lawrence's prices are coming down. We went with this PSA 9 here. Once again, PSA 10 has a weird print issue on it, so the pop's super low. They don't transact very often. PSA 9 silver, Trevor Lawrence, down 38% over the last 60 days from just under $300 to just under $200. Mac Attack, Mac Jones, actually not that hyped in the preseason, but has looked meh to start the season. His card price is down almost 30%, $220-ish back around national time, now down to $150-ish here in late September. Of all those guys, price point aside, the one that is probably most interesting is Burrow, because we know that he is good. It is just this injury has him bogged down. So, maybe you could get some steals on some Burrow stuff slipping through on auctions. Maybe that's the play here. For me personally, when it comes to football, if you've watched the channel for a while, I don't usually like to carry football in the season or mess with it, though usually in season is some of the best times to buy. I still think it's a little too early, but maybe you could slip in a good deal on Burrow. I just am very concerned about a re-aggravation, or just this is just going to be a constant thing all season where he's playing every week, but he is hampered by it all season long, where it just starts to get better and then he tweaks it a little bit, not enough to keep him out, but to just kind of keep this thing going where he just never gets right. And it's kind of I don't want to call it a lost year, but it could easily head that direction. He could sit, get healthy, or maybe it just miraculously heals and then he's back to his old self. That just seems like the not as likely path. We'll see how things play out. But those are the going down. Let's talk about some guys actually going up. That's right. Card prices do go up sometimes. 2 quarterbacks, a wide receiver, and a couple defensive guys that I picked out on this list. The 2 biggest winners by far, Brock Purdy and Tua. Brock, everyone liked Brock. They think he's a winning quarterback. Now, everyone was always questioning the numbers when it came to Brock. The 49ers look like an absolute monster. Brock looks like he is potentially good, and his card prices have gone to the moon. Since the National, up 140% from $385 all the way up to $925 in a PSA 10 for his Silver Prism. By far, now he's probably the biggest winner by a long shot. The second biggest winner is Tua. Tua, I think a vast majority of people like what they saw out of him last year on the positive side. Like, he seems like he is legitimately a pretty good quarterback. They have a ton of weapons on that team. The fear or the talk all offseason was, boy, oh boy, those concussions. He is one hit away from retirement. Oh, I didn't like the way I saw him fence and lay on the ground last year on primetime football. That sucked. That stuff really hampered his prices in the offseason. His prices basically stayed flat all offseason long, even though he was really good last year. It was all the ghosts of those concussions. However, they have started this year like gangbusters. Him and Tyreek Hill are playing pinball out there and just lighting up the scoreboard. His PSA 10 silver up 73%, was about $500 at the National, is now up to a little over $900. His running mate, one Mr. Tyreek Hill, has also seen an explosion in price. Was $140 at the National, now up to $225. That is a 60% increase on that one. Couple defensive players to look at that are off to ridiculously hot starts. I was surprised. For full disclosure, I pulled this list up and I knew that, Parsons and Watt were off to really strong starts. I was curious if their prices had gone up. And I included Myles Garrett on that list, and his prices are kind of flat, which I'm a little surprised by. Shout out to the Browns defense. They look like a monster. Not sure about the offense, but Myles Garrett and the defensive unit look like an absolute machine. I do own a couple Myles Garrett cards from a little PC perspective. Those are, and a Deshaun Watson, I think, are the only active NFL players that I currently own, other than some stuff sitting at PSA. But TJ Watt, off to a really strong start, absolutely shredded the Browns in week 2. His PSA 10 silver has nearly doubled in price, was $80 at the National, is now up to $150. That is an 84% increase. Decent pop on that card, actually, at $400. I'm a little surprised it's that high. Micah Parsons, 2021 Silver Prism, also off to a very strong start, looking like a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, along with Watt and Myles Garrett. His price, $175 at the National, up slightly at $215 now for a 23% increase. So, as my old friend Sports Cards Anonymous likes to say, you can make money on players that don't just play quarterback. Now, there's plenty of other players that are going up and going down. These are the ones that I picked out because they had interesting talking points to go with them. That being said, the list of players going down drastically outnumbered the list of players going up, at least if you're looking at a 60-day time horizon. We will see where things go from here. We'll obviously sprinkle in NFL pricing as we move throughout the weekly sports card market updates over the next little bit, and maybe we'll crank one of these out towards the end of each month to go over just kind of a more macro look at what has been going on in the NFL season so far. But for the most part, a lot of red. A lot of people have lost money on a lot of quarterbacks that they put money into. Someone that didn't make the appearance on this chart but easily could have. Desmond Ritter's down about 30 or 40%. Sam Howell is down just slightly when I looked at his stuff regarding the 2022 guys to go along with Purdy. 2023, not enough sample size yet regarding just actual cards being out there. Obviously, CJ Stroud's off to a pretty strong start. That is good for my PSA submission. Bryce Young, dinged up. Anthony Richardson, dinged up. That is all I have for you, boys and girls. We will catch you on the next one. Peace.